It was September 3rd last month that our inside source reported to us on a secretive nuclear weapons transfer. Then Lindsey Graham came out, the senator from South Carolina, and said that the East Coast would be nuked if we didn't attack Syria. Then the second command over all nuclear forces was relieved from command. And then today, the number one in command was relieved, and this had to be leaked to the AP. This was going to be kept secret. It turns out the first admiral was removed, the second in command, the day we released that information, just hours later in the evening. This was kept secret for weeks. Now this new top general has been relieved, the number one commander, and we're going to tell you who he's been replaced by. That's really the big news here. But there's definitely coup, counter-coup stuff going on here. We're not sure exactly what's happening, but it's big. Anthony Gucciardi, StoryLeak.com. You've been on this like nobody else here at the office since this came in with our source, who we've lost contact with. We've got about 6 minutes till the news ends. We're going to come back after the news with a special news bulletin to continue with this. But give folks the basics of why we're so concerned about this.
So this is why this is so concerning in a breaking news piece that we're still yet to fully decipher. But today's research is what we found. So not only has Lindsey Graham come out and said, yeah, if you don't go to war with Syria and actually Iran as well, South Carolina will be nuked. But that same day beforehand, we leaked the intel specifically stating that the nuclear warheads were moving from Texas to South Carolina. To add matters to that and make it even more extreme, not only, yes, do we have the second commander being fired, but the first commander being fired. And it later came out through these leaked emails, if you look at the Daily Mail piece, that the second in command was fired on the same day of the nuclear warheads transfer that we reported on. The exact same day, but that came out weeks later. So we couldn't have known that. The intel was right, 100%. We knew that, but we could not have even guessed that these guys would be laid off and fired and suspended and terminated until weeks later when they admit, yes, it happened on September 3rd, that day we reported it, but we didn't want anyone to know.
And this happened in 2007 at Minot with 2 cruise missiles from North Dakota down to Louisiana, and it was a huge scandal, huge investigations. They were trying to steal these, is what our intel said. In fact, we were one of the first to report on it. This time it comes out, and it's not been picked up by the mainstream media, which is even more scary. And again, our source didn't know where they were going, exactly what was happening, just the general area. They just knew this was off the radar and highly illegal.
Well, they said South Carolina specifically at the same point Lindsey Graham said that a nuclear attack could happen.
Yes, so, and he said South Carolina or New York.
Yeah, so he said South Carolina, but it could go up into the New York area because it's a harbor, it's a big port, it's a big bay, it could go anywhere. But specifically, we knew South Carolina.
Yes.
That's what we knew. And then Lindsey Graham came out and said, yes, there could be an attack there. But what worries me the most, it's most concerning to me, that's the biggest point, is the Daily Mail piece where it says, yes, they didn't want to tell us about any of it. We weren't supposed to really know. But then in the leaked section, it says, yeah, the email indicated that it actually happened on September 3rd. Again, that's the same day the nuke transfer actually was initiated. So these guys are being offed and terminated on the same day, and that the top guy, it turns out, he was terminated 2 days after another one. So it goes on and on. It's like these people don't want to play the game. Maybe they're whistleblowers. Maybe they didn't want to have a false flag scenario in South Carolina, and they're terminated from that. And maybe just talking about this is also preventing it, which is amazing. But this also goes into this new thing. This is breaking news here, exclusive. The guy that's firing all these people, the head guy, his name is Kowalski. He made a statement in this Department of Defense online website here in an interview, and he actually said, nuclear weapons are strategic weapons. They're political weapons. So they're not just weapons of war. He went on to talk about, we have all these 2,000-pound bombs and everything. That's what master sergeants talk about. But once you get to the level of senator and secretary of defense, they talk about nuclear weapons. He's saying that nuclear weapons aren't actually weapons of war anymore. They're political strategic weapons. That, to me, sounds like he's saying he's holding the country hostage, as we talked about before. This is the guy in charge firing all these generals who wouldn't go along with him. That's
what we war-gamed in early September last month, that these could hold the country hostage. They're not supposed to be nukes at Daya since '86. Weldon Henson, that works here, was stationed there working on B-2 bombers and F-16s. He said there were bunkers they weren't supposed to go into. That's where these got pulled out, put on 18-wheelers. And again, South Carolina, they wouldn't say where specifically. And they were like, well, this is illegal. There's no paperwork. And the base commander came out and said, hey, national security, it's an order. And there was a big issue there with security, the base security, the police, everybody were really freaked out. That's why this was leaked to the media. Not just us, but to others. We went with it. Just like the Capitol SWAT team leaked to us, they were ordered to stand down at the Navy Yard shooting. Later that came out in the BBC. Just like the Navy SEALs came to us about how they were being killed a year before it came out in the mainstream media. This is real. This has got to be the most dangerous thing I've ever reported. My gut tells me that we're risking our lives doing this, but we've got to do it. It's our duty. And look at who they've put in now over all the nuclear weapons now that General Kerry's been removed. General Jack Weinstein, he looks like he's about 14 years old, and so he must be following orders.
Yeah, they're replacing the real experienced people with this guy, Jack Weinstein, who will go along and play ball. It's definitely obvious these older generals were either whistleblowers, they weren't going to go along with the plan. And it seems to me that basically he's saying that, yeah, nuclear weapons are not for war, they're political and strategic weapons. Sounds to me like they wanted to launch a false flag attack as a pretext to war in Syria and Iran, as Graham was their little playboy to go out and say it, and then these guys would not go along with it. And it also means to me that if they were going to, as some people speculated, set these up as defense against Syria, which is unnecessary and moronic anyway, they wouldn't have an issue saying, yes, we relocated some of our bombs to protect ourselves or something. But this is definitely a political and strategic move, just like they said.
We're going to go to break and end the news because some stations carry it's got to end right now. We're going to come back for PrisonPlanet.tv viewers and continue to break this down and talk about some of the other news as well. Anthony, thank you. Folks, you've got to understand something out there. They love to hide things in plain view. Just like they've had all the Democratic strategists say a false flag would sure help us if there was a terror attack to blame the Tea Party. They put that in the Times of London, Financial Times, Associated Press. And when he's going, you know, these aren't just military weapons. These are political weapons now. This is pretty creepy. So that's it for this Friday edition of InfoWars Nightly News. I'll be back this Sunday, 4 to 6 p.m. Central, with the Sunday radio show. And Lord willing, back on Monday. Please pray for InfoWars, pray for Nightly News, pray for our great crew. And I also want to thank you all for your support. Please pray for America and free peoples everywhere fighting against tyranny. That's it for this edition.
Now you can watch The Alex Jones Show live as it happens at Infowars.com/show.
You'll find links to all of our content there and a free 15-day trial for Prison Planet TV.
More than 60 movies and documentaries all in one place at Infowars.com/show.
And we're back with this special report in extended coverage here on InfoWars Nightly News. Thank you for spending your Friday with us and caring about the future course, not just of this country, but of the world. And we just, before the main news show ended, broke down some of the facets, but we were rushed there in the 6-7 minutes we had in that segment, Anthony Gucciardi. Other issues, I mean, I just can't get over this new top general being put in there, and then the general that's over him, he's the head general over all the nuclear forces, but the major general above him making creepy comments about the nuclear weapons are political as well. It's just over the top, the type of things that are happening. And they haven't really denied that nukes came up missing. You'd think that they would come out and dispute what we've said.
Yeah, so when I actually called Dyess Air Force Base, they first told me that it was illegal and against policy to even comment on the nuke transfer whatsoever. They said they can't comment on any nuclear...
They answered the phone and said we can't talk about the weapon transfer.
Well, that's the second time. So I actually called and got this captain who said that she's never talked to me before. So apparently it was someone new who's never heard of this before. And I said, hey, this is Anthony Gucciardi. I want to ask you about a certain transfer. And then she said, oh, I can't comment about weapons transfers. But typically, if you're calling about a transfer, you're talking about a transfer of personnel. You're talking about a transfer of your son or daughter or something. And then she immediately responded and cut me off. I can't talk about weapons transfers. And that's when I started prying and saying, well, what do you...
And we recorded this. It's clearly the same woman.
So it's on YouTube. It's on the...
Clearly the same woman.
Yeah, the same woman. And she was just going and saying, you know, we can't talk about that. It's against policy. It would basically be illegal if I even told you about nuclear transfers. And then on their Facebook page, after our readers went and overwhelmed them, they basically went on Facebook and said, it didn't happen according to our official website. So they give a runaround answer and didn't say anything about it on the site. And then we have hundreds of emails coming in, even in my email, which I said once on air, talking about, you know, I'm working at Dyess and I'm seeing all this crazy stuff go on. The commanders are fritzing and they're crazy and they don't know what's going on and everyone wants answers. We're demanding answers. They're not answering us. And then we're getting reports, unconfirmed reports, of course. Our actual high-level military intelligence is confirmed, but unconfirmed reports saying, I saw the trucks, I saw them wrapping them up in different mats and everything like that and transferring them off. There was 4 trucks. And multiple emails said there were 4 trucks. Now, we're not going off that because we only go off confirmed intel.
Sure, our source just said there weren't supposed to be nukes here. They pulled them out, and then it wasn't the regular trucks that, because there's other bases nearby that do have nukes, it wasn't even properly done, and then they said, don't worry about it.
No signature whatsoever.
And that's why we were contacted, and other media was as well. And the issue is like every other time, just like the Capitol SWAT team, as I mentioned, they went public to BBC too and said, we were ordered to stand down.
It's like if you have cancer, and let's just say one of the symptoms is head pain. Okay, it could just be a headache, all right? Then the second symptom is, pain right here in the sinuses. Okay, you could just have a sinus infection and a headache. And then you have a massive tumor coming out of your head. You might have cancer.
And you're going blind.
Yeah, exactly. You're going blind. You can't even stand up.
You're hallucinating.
Yeah. The Graham thing was, maybe the beginning of a cancerous stage that people were saying, it looks like this might be.
Graham's like, we're going to be hit with nukes unless you give your rights up.
The second top nuke commander was the beginning of a tumor. We're walking around with a tumor on our head at this
The number 2 guy in command.
Yeah, the number 2 nuke commander. Now, this guy, the commander, is the tumor is just pulling our head, the gravity of it.
And the quote was that they question his loyalty.
Yeah.
I mean, they're like, well, to who?
It's worse than that, though. They didn't just question his loyalty. It was about a specific task given, a temporary task given that he failed to do. And he was, the second guy was removed on September 3rd, the same exact day of the transfer.
And they kept that secret for 2 weeks.
Yes. And
all this is happening the day we reported in like 11:30 in the morning.
And then Graham comes out.
And then all hell breaks loose.
And then 2 weeks later, they say he was suspended on September 3rd over some bogus charges. But once again, let's be clear. They didn't announce that until it was leaked. They would have never told us.
And by the way, guys, just for listeners out there, because every time we talk about this, I see comments on YouTube or on Infowars.com saying there were never any missing nukes in 2007, much less in September of 2013. Guys, type in missing nukes, Minot. There's a Wikipedia on it.
It's even on Wikipedia, yeah.
But it has all the links to mainstream news. I don't just believe every Wikipedia. It has a bibliography. I remember covering at the time. B-52 takes off from Minot, flies down to the Air Force Base in Louisiana. I forget the name. There's these high-tech cruise missiles that look like little stealth bombers. The radar can't see. And there's at least 2 of them. And then it's like no one can say why they were loaded unauthorized, because that's like totally illegal. And that's what people were freaking out here. They're not supposed to be nukes. There are nukes. The cops finally climb up the thing and go, look, you're going to tell us where it's going at least. I don't care what the commander says. Something's wrong. They go, all we know is we're going to South Carolina.
The truck driver just said, I don't know anything. I'm taking this to South Carolina. That's it.
Yeah, and I don't know where it goes from there.
And don't forget, the base commander was on site giving the authorization unsigned. So the base commander knew about this. And
according to our source, who was freaked out.
According to our source. And it makes me think that the first guy was told to do it, but he wouldn't do it. And that's why he was suspended. They probably said, get out of here, we're going to have someone that plays ball, like this new guy, which we'll talk about. The second guy, I think, he was suspended probably a couple days afterwards. I think he was just going to be potentially a threat, a whistleblower, because he wasn't okay with maybe taking a nuke to South Carolina and doing something with it amid this Syria crisis.
And by the way, I want to be clear. Yeah, because we had Graham holding us hostage. And we attack Syria or a nuke's going to go off here in New York.
And we said all of this, by the way, all of this would happen. We'd start seeing people fired or killed. We said this before, and they were holding us hostage. We said that verbatim in these videos, and now it's happening.
And this is not fun either. I mean,
no.
I want to be clear. We tried to say maybe they were dummies. Maybe it was a drill.
Maybe it was self-defense from Syria or Iran.
Up front, we tried to speculate that maybe our source, who we believe, but maybe they were wrong. Maybe it was dummies. Maybe it was a drill. Maybe it was just a movement that they didn't want the Russians to know about because we've kept nukes back and they've kept nukes back. And then we find out that next night or later that evening, wait a minute, Graham just made this statement.
We didn't find out till the following day.
That's right. I'm going from memory. It was the next day. And then we now learn that day they fired the number 2 general, and then now they fired the other general, and they don't want the media to release it. And usually when a general gets fired, it's all over the news. And
I called Lindsey Graham on air. I don't think we put it on YouTube because it was mostly uneventful, except for the secretary said she was really worried about his statements. I said, so he did say that. And she said, yeah, well, we're trying to all figure it out. We're in a fluster right now. We're scared because we think we're going to get nuked if we don't attack Syria. And I said, so you actually looked into it. It looks like he said these things. She's like, yeah, we've been trying to call him all day. He won't respond.
Well, it was in CBS News.
Yeah, it was in CBS News. He definitely said it on record. AP also covered it. But they were saying even they weren't alerted. even his staff in D.C. weren't told, and his hometown staff, they had no idea what that was happening. Like, he didn't even alert them to it.
Well, I mean, I want to be clear. We get a source confirmed saying, look, people are pretty freaked out. This is what happened. The cops were freaked out, too. There's private cops there. This person saw all this. Everybody said, well, get the base commander. He came out and said, no, it's authorized. Well, where's the paperwork? Big arguments.
Yeah.
And then just, hey, that's an order. And then as it was leaving, cops stopped it and said, we want to know where this is going. I mean, this was like a big scene reported.
And it wasn't like we're going out and saying, this is a false flag immediately. We're just saying, hey, we need to put this out as information in case things develop, which I'm really glad we did.
And then all hell breaks loose.
Yeah.
I've been creeped out about this from the beginning. What do you think's going on?
I really think they're, as you've said before in the video, to extrapolate on that, they're holding us hostage, except it's an interior fight and infighting in the military complex. So I think there are good generals. In fact, I know there are good higher-ups. I don't know about generals, maybe lieutenant generals. I think they're removing everyone. We're seeing this with Obama, by the way, as well. They're removing higher-ups in the military across the board. It's not just this in some ways. But this is obviously related to the Dias incident. But they're removing other generals and other people across the board so they can get these bad guys in there. And I think they're putting this guy Jack Weinstein in because he'll play ball and he'll do what they want. And I think in this event, Graham is a stage boy to go ahead and say, yeah, if we don't attack Syria, we could be nuked. And he's fear-mongering that, but at the same time, I think they're crazy enough to do anything to get to Syria, to get to the Middle East and get their territory over there. So I think there's elements inside the military that are fighting against good elements inside the military. The good elements are saying, hey, we're not going to do this. We could maybe be even be whistleblowers. I'm forecasting we'll see more suspensions, more terminations, and suicides inside the military in the near future, coming months, and the bad guys will be replacing them. And we'll always be able to find something with these new people.
So this is a globalist coup over the military. We know that's been going on for a long time. We know even the chairman of the Joint Chiefs went in and said, you're not attacking Syria.
But this is the tipping point. This nuke transfer is the tipping point.
Well, I mean, take Weinstein's boss, the major general, who's over it all, saying, hey, we'll use these for political purposes.
Kowalski, yeah. General Kowalski saying,
let's dig him up here.
Literally, he says, nuclear weapons are strategic weapons. They're political weapons. And he goes on to talk about there's certain missiles, 2,000-pound bombs that military people would think about. I'm thinking of nuclear weapons in a political way. So he's saying that these are tools of politics. I mean, these are ways to get things done politically with nuclear weapons. And there are certain elements inside the military that don't want that, but I know that there are negative, evil people in the military.
Kowalski's the lieutenant general. He's not the other guy's boss.
No, the main guy, no. Kowalski is still doing firing, though, under... See, this is where it gets very
Here's the head guy. Where's the major general?
The guy.
Here it is, right here.
This is the top guy here who's actually ahead of Kowalski. Kowalski's still extremely high up, and he's able to fire top nuke commanders. But this guy, Robert Keller, I believe his name is, he is the top. He could fire Kowalski. So this is the guy that's going ahead and saying, yes, making the calls and saying, yes, fire all these new commanders. Then Kowalski's going ahead. This is the guy that I believe fired the #1.
This is the guy that put Weinstein in.
Yes. And now Weinstein is in, and he's stationed at the Pentagon since 2009 from the research I did on that. And it looks like he's just been awarded a bunch of these different medals in Iraq and everything like that for following orders and doing the right thing. So I believe what they're doing is they're putting someone in that will listen to their every single word.
Well, I know this. I mean, like you said, over 100 emails. People saying, oh, yeah, they're with the trucks, big freak out. Now they're having drills here.
I mean, they're literally freaking out, saying, please talk about this, please talk about this. The thing is, though, we only talk about confirmed sources. We only put out confirmed sources. We could put out and talk about the people that see the trucks and everything like that, but that's unconfirmed. The high-level military intelligence, that's what's so scary about this, is confirmed. He is real, and he has actual information that is pertinent.
They have. We don't know if it's a she.
Yeah, the androgynous whistleblower has information.
There was a graphic up on InfoWars yesterday. It's in my Twitter. I want to show people in the Real Alex Jones Twitter, if we can, a tweet from yesterday that shows the lapdog media to end this off here, because it shows Obama, and the cartoon is a lapdog with his tail wagging in his lap, and he says, good, play dead, and it's wagging its tail. No one in his hour-long press conference he had or other press conferences will ask about Obamacare not working. They won't even ask, why doesn't it work? They just do whatever they're told now, and so it's not like I'm some great guy or you're some great guy. I guess we're just crazy enough to go ahead and cover things so whistleblowers come to us, but we're not crazy. Does everybody have to be a coward? Does everyone have to sell out? Does everyone have to just say, oh, missing nukes, no big deal? Let's go play golf or something. I mean, that's what destroys civilizations, is people just giving in to criminal mafias.
Here is the ultimate proof the mainstream media is a lying Decepticon BS machine. Take, for example, the Constitution-free zones from the DHS. That piece I covered on StoryLeak, which at the time was just about 2 weeks old, got 140,000 shares on certain social media sites, 20,000 shares on Facebook. It was like 500,000 shares on Tumblr. It was insane. I was getting millions of hits. And only Wired magazine covered it. Why would the mainstream media not talk about something as crazy as the fact that within 100 miles of the border, that's Houston, Los Angeles, Philadelphia.
And the government itself's calling it Constitution-free.
You don't have a Fourth Amendment, yes, exactly. But the whole thing is you don't have a Fourth Amendment, it gets deeper, whereas you don't have the whole entire Constitution. So the DHS reviewed itself and said, yes, you don't have a Constitution on the border, which is 100 miles from the border, actual border, even including oceans. Isn't that amazing? Isn't that just in itself sensational?
And that's just like free speech zones, and that's like the TSA saying, we'll arrest you, you make jokes now. They're just saying, oh, you have rights. They exist in the phantom zone.
But the key is
but you just can't get there. Everywhere else, there's no rights.
But if the media was real, they would cover that, even if they were just money hungry. It just proves the ultimate goal is not money.
Oh, yeah, these are hot stories, is your point.
Yeah, if they covered
this stuff is hot. This stuff is real. This stuff is important, but they won't do it because it's not about money. It's not about fame. It's not about coverage. It's not about freedom. That's why we're doing it. That's our main driver. For them, because they're bought and paid for.
Yeah, at an elementary level, they say, you know, the corporations, the news media is driven by profit and profit alone. But if that were true, they would cover stories like this. They would cover stories like the Dias Nuke. They would interview us, and I'm on some television shows, but like Fox News and stuff.
They would say, you claim this is going on, you little liar.
Yeah, but they won't even do that because they're not even profit-driven. They are bought and paid for, and they are driven by government.
Because the profit is the private Federal Reserve that has unlimited money.
Yeah.
And as long as it runs the government, it doesn't care.
Yeah, exactly.
The whole reality, the free market, our families, it's all got to go for their fraud to take over.
But the good thing is the real authentic media, we come in and we take it, we do the actual real stories, and it's just blowing up big.
Yeah, but the question is, what are they going to do now? They're going to build the NSA to shut us down, but then they can't even do that right because it's all mafia bid rigging, so it bursts into flames.
We had this exact conversation on air, I think, 4 months ago, and I said Bloomberg specifically, to look at Bloomberg, they're becoming a fake alternative news. And around that time, they started doing all these pieces about how big banks are ruling the world. It's all watered down, but they're actually decent pieces about how we fund them with taxpayer money and stuff. They're going to pretend to be like us. They can't beat us, so they have to act like they're the new us.
But Bloomberg wants to be dominant, so they get it. I've noticed that.
Yeah, exactly. The smarter news agencies, CNN is not smart in this respect. The smarter news agencies like Fox, actually, and Bloomberg, and some of those like that, and there's a few other ones, but they'll act like they're alternative news. They'll be like, yeah, we're on your side. The big banks, you know, we love Occupy Wall Street.
McClatchy's.
Yeah, exactly. They're going to try and be us. That's why they already are copying our headlines over and over again, because they see that it's working, because that's what people actually want to hear. And then what they'll do, though, is the main thing will be like, yeah, we're funding the big banks. Gee, we should really get a new Congress or some new president. It's never like, hey, let's get rid of the Federal Reserve. It's like, gee, do you think a Republican would be a better answer? I think so. It's never the real answer.
Well, I mean, I'll just say this in closing before I hit some other news, and I appreciate your analysis. My main driver is to have a free society down the road, and I almost want to censor myself and want to go slow and want to back off, but something in me says, look, you know this is a real source. You've got to report this. Navy SEALs come to us. They blew up our helicopter. They killed our body. We know it. This was a look-alike, bin Laden. All that's now come out. Cy Hurst says it's all fake. I don't like risking my life. I mean, it's not like some daredevil deal where I want to go jump buses on a motorcycle or something. That's basically what we're doing here. I mean, it's dangerous. And it's just by the grace of God I'm still alive. That's why I think I'm still alive, though, because there's so many other alternative media people now that get it, like you and so many others, that's a good feeling. But it is scary to kind of be the tip of the spear. And I mean, obviously people wonder, Alex Jones must not be real. He's still alive. Why do you think this operation is still up and running?
Because without it, then basically they have to start telling the truth. There is a market for truth. It's the fastest growing market. We could look at it even in the industry of food. GMO-free food, organic food is the fastest growing trend right now, period. So at the same time, truth is the fastest growing trend. There will always be a percentage of people looking for the truth. And
yeah, but why haven't they gone after me then? Let me explain.
Well, they have gone after you in some ways, but at the
well,
same
they tried to
time,
assassinate my name.
No, it's stupid. If they killed you, it would make no sense. If they killed you, it would prove everything that we've said, and then people would be on the streets rioting. They have to adapt themselves to be like you. They will have, as they already have, I won't mention names, versions of you created in the media, high-paid individuals that will say things like you do, but with a much softer actual realization. So, for example, they'll say things like, the big banks are gutting us. It's because of Bush. The big banks are gutting us. It's because of Obama. And people will eat into that because it fits their paradigm, and it's also a little bit truth-telling. So what they do, they steal, they hijack our alternative, real, authentic media.
No, that's really true. But obviously the NSA gridded in and everything. It is watching what we're doing and what's going on. It's sitting there tracking it all, trying to figure it out. But I think all it's really figuring out is how destructive it is and how it's going to destroy their children and their own future.
I mean, here's the thing. I'm talking to the New York Times about potentially an interview, and they're confused and they don't understand. They don't know how to put an angle on it because they're asking me, how did you get so big without 500 employees and $5 million? How did you start from your apartment years ago with a natural health website that's now the third largest, with StoryLeak, working with Alex, doing all this stuff, doing product lines? How did you do that? We don't get it. And the answer I tell them is I'm literally just telling people the truth. I'm telling them what they want to know, talking about things that matter, and they think that's a lie. They don't get it. They said, yeah, really, but you know, how much money, how many millions of dollars did you put into this? They don't get it, that the truth is viral. I mean, the truth is viral. You can go on Facebook now and share something that's truthful, a photo with a quote, and get 5 million shares. People like Coke and Pepsi have to pay millions of dollars to even reach 1/100th of percent.
That's when I told Politico years ago when they were trying to defeat Rand Paul, I said, if you want to destroy him, endorse him. But I go, you can't do that because you're too arrogant and you still think you're in control. I mean, they literally are mentally ill. And they don't get that even if they've dumbed the public down, at the level of people that are thinking, no one buys what they say anymore.
No one. And they're sharks, too, so they don't think of people as actual free individuals with a heart, mind, and soul. They just see it as, these are people that we need to pay money to reach. You know, we have to make stuff up to reach.
That's right. They see you as an economic unit, as a
harvesting factor to take ration.
Yeah, they call you a human resource openly in your face. The IRS calls citizens inventory.
Zombies, too.
Yeah. We are inventory. Actually, they call us inventory technically.
Well, you know, the NSA, it leaked that the NSA was referring to iPhone users as zombies. That was a leaked document from the NSA.
That's right. But all they're doing is turning themselves into zombies as well. What they don't get is when they address a human like they're dumb, it may dumb them down in a feedback loop, but it dumbs them down as well. And then people get hungry for people to really talk to them. They get hungry for something real, something not scripted.
And that's why they looked to people like us who are going to tell them the reality of what's going on and not speak to them like they're 5-year-old babies.
Well, notice the attack profile is always, we're real, we're sold out, we're agents, we're lying, we're manipulating, I'm not legitimate, I'm not bona fide, I'm not real, I'm not, because they know it's real. Yeah. They got it all tapped, they're watching it, and they're going, I want to be real. Because I've talked to people in the government at all levels. They hear it and go, actually, that's true. And then they kind of get uncompartmentalized, go, this is really a screw job. Why do we want to be part of this? It's almost like a peer pressure system, a train to hell. Why don't we all just get off of it? Well, I mean, they should ask themselves that.
Yeah, I mean, it's like when we went to the NSA, when we approached them, the guy was like, he didn't even understand that a peasant would walk into the NSA and just start filming them and asking them questions and checking them and interrogating them.
He was so blown away, like, you people are slaves. You're scared of me. You're behind the curtain, Toto.
But he actually was desperately afraid of me. Because you would think that he would think I'm a little peon and he could just crush me under his boot. He was like actually afraid of me. That's why he let us go. And that's why he wouldn't arrest me. I said, are you going to arrest me? It was almost invoking him to arrest us. And he said, well, no, I'm not going to. Then the other guys came and threatened us with the dogs and everything. I said, are you saying that dog is going to kill me? And he's like, well, yeah. They were afraid of me.
He might.
Even though we didn't have cameras on at some points of that.
Well, they were afraid because you were breaking the facade. Hey, we're just media, nice here to talk to you. What? You're a terrorist. Nobody talks to me unless they're bad.
Yeah, exactly. But once you start groveling to them, then they actually believe, you know, that's standard. That's what they believe. When a cop pulls you over, you need to grovel to them, and that's what they anticipate. But when you actually respond in a way that a real, actual human should, or have a real conversation with an officer, have you ever done that? And they're just like, wow, they actually enjoy it and they respect you. breaking the psychological programming is key to success in all forms.
And that's why the TSA says, you don't talk to us, we'll arrest you.
Yeah, because you can unprogram their employees.
And that's what they're afraid of.
Exactly. They're afraid of us infiltrating the Borg system by even saying one word. You know, even saying, hey, you know, this is actually against the Constitution. If you have a real good conversation with someone and treat them as a human being, and I think that's what we do with our videos, it'll work. Speaking to someone like a human being works, not today on the radio, something happened, you know, blah, blah, blah. That's all programming, but when you speak to them as if we were having a conversation like we are right now, if you're speaking to the audience, the listener, as a human being, and that's someone you actually value, it activates their brain.
That's right. That's why everything they do is about keep calm, sleep, friend, don't worry, there's nothing bad. There were no secret testing on people. DU's not bad. Obamacare's working great. Don't listen to the racists.
I would challenge everyone to go on YouTube and look at the 9/11 coverage for CNN and Fox. And when the plane hit the building...
It was all perfectly scripted, in line, clearly staged. You can tell, not that they were in on it, but they were already loaded, teleprompters ready to go.
Yeah, that too, but the psychological programming was still in effect even when something traumatic like that happened. I was trying to think of a good example. Like, think of when the second plane hit the building. They were like, don't worry, it's probably still an accident. It's probably not a big deal. It's okay. Okay, our officials have not told us yet. Everyone should...
We have to wait till they come.
And meanwhile, then the police are saying...
Don't think for yourselves.
Yeah, stay calm, don't run away. Don't worry about all that ash coming in with mercury vapors. It's okay.
They say that's good for you.
Yeah, so it's like, in any scenario, thinking for yourself is weird.
But then they all come on every channel 50 minutes later. We have the answers. Bin Laden did it. You're not
Very calmly.
You're not going to have your rights anymore. Don't be scared. We'll save you.
That's why they insult people that are real like us, because we actually have emotions and we care about things, and we tell people, no, run away from the mercury vapors. Run away from the towers. Get out of there right now. After the first plane hit, there were people standing there saying, wow, some plane accidentally hit the buildings. Even if it did, you want to get out of there, but they were saying, stay calm, it's okay. That's the programming.
Because they want you in, I mean, that's why they're banning sports everywhere. I'm against watching the sports, but I'm all for playing them. And I was reading the psychological studies by the guy that invented the Olympics in 1914, the modern one, this French aristocrat. He said, we need to have this as the new religion, but also to have soldiers. We should have the military class play games to be tough, but, you know, not anybody else, basically. And then Hitler picked up on that to be, and so now they go, no, don't learn how to fight back. We have men with machine guns for that.
Well, why do you think the highest paid gladiator in today's dollars was paid millions of dollars back in those days? It's because that's what it's all about. The programming is reinstituted every single moment of every single day. You know, you wake up with your fluoride toothpaste. You're already dumbing yourself down. You know, when you're eating your eggs and you put some salt on it, there's no iodine in it. It's et cetera, throughout the entire day from the actual health standpoint to everything else. And that's why when we put the puzzle pieces together, when we look at, for example, the Constitution-free zones, people say, how is that related to the sodium fluoride? People say, how is that related to the programming that's going on in the media? It's all part of this system to make you docile and stupid. And that seems elementary to some people, but you have to realize
it's a total war against individualism, because then the elite can't run us like robots. It's elementary.
We come up with a sledgehammer and just shatter the glass, and they're like, how could you do that?
That was racist.
Well, they're in the box. We're shattering the box and blowing up the box with dynamite, and then the other reporters from the New York Times, who probably get paid, you know, tons of money to go write about kitties and trees and stuff, come, they're like, how do you get 100 times more viewers?
Because it's all written to kill journalism and kill muckraking, so nothing can threaten the system. It's all just bland. Oh, you get more access to abortions now in California. And it says a guy can do it in the back alley with a coat hanger. He's given liability protection. Overturning, it's so dangerous.
It reminds me of the headline. I was researching Syria. I don't remember it offhand, but it's a paraphrase. Basically, Obama had signed secret orders to arm the Syrian rebels, which is something I was really passionate about, because they go around beheading Christians in public squares and they all cheer and bathe in the blood and drink the blood. And it was called something like, Obama releases authorization for Syria. And it was like, Obama authorizes secret support for Syrian rebels since 2011 and offers them millions of dollars to buy heavy ammunition to destroy tanks. But the headline was like, Obama approves authorization for Syria. It wasn't exactly that, but it was so boring. No one would click that. But then they have something like, you know, a shooting, deadly assault shotgun, like the CNN article, kills and maims
Population
children.
runs in fear, begs for answers. Here's a mother. It's you gun owners' fault. Manipulating.
So it's like anything that is establishment is docile. Anything they want to be traumatic is traumatic. The images of the shooters over and over and over and over again, the aspects of how deadly and bloody and violent it is, or how about the knife stabbing person? They didn't even want to talk about that.
If kids play at recess, they might get hurt.
Yeah.
Dangerous people playing. But, you know, drones killing you, that's no big deal.
That's fine.
Drones bring security.
Yeah, and the whole food system as well. So it's basically, you can look at what they want you to do and determine if something is real.
Well, that's like the FDA. You know, deadly GMO, chemicals, additives, plastics in the food, no problem, good for you. Baby's dying, bad formula, but, oh, vitamin C might give you diarrhea if you ate too much. It's bad, we're gonna arrest you if you quote the Nobel Prize winner saying it could help cancer.
And Michelle Obama goes on the Food Network and she has this healthy eating guide. It says nothing about GMOs, nothing about artificial sweeteners, nothing about anything. Just says, there's too much fat in that, honey. And she gives it to a kid and she's teaching.
Which again, the real healthy fats are actually good for your
they're
brain.
good. The whole
you
concept.
must have them, IQ, everything, it's on record. They're like, fat all bad, trans fat good, bad.
It just goes into the programming, though. Literally now we're at the point where fat means fat. I mean, they can't understand that that's a different type of utilization for the body at all. It's just, if it has fat in it, means that makes you fat. That's how low we are. And that's, for example, two things now, actually. The Fukushima disaster, no one cares about it because radiation is invisible. If radiation was a big pink puffy cloud, people would care about it because they would see it. The Obamacare system, they can't understand the coding of the website and how flawed it is and how it's going to ruin everything because they don't understand what code even means. It's not the listeners. The listeners understand this, but the general public doesn't even understand the most basic, rudimentary
Well,
values.
no, that's why the 10% that think they've signed up, it came out today, didn't.
But they still
They're
think
just
they
doing
do.
a poll. They go, we have a poll. Did you sign up? They're like, no, I did.
Exactly.
They're like, good, it's free now. And then they'll be by themselves when they go to the hospital and are told it isn't, and no one's going to listen to them.
No, but they'll get off on it and they'll say, you don't support Obamacare? You don't want free health care for everyone? It's this programming that if you follow the system and you go with that docile and traumatic programming and you work on it, you can basically do what Eddie Vedder says and say anyone that supports guns is horrible and killing children.
But meanwhile, he has armed bodyguards.
Of course, because that's not that.
He's like, I'm worth $100 million. I get bodyguards and guns. You don't. I hope violence happens to you.
Yeah.
Everybody's like, oh, how liberal. He hopes violence if we protect ours. That sounds like a... Listen, we've gone too long here, even though it's an overdrive. I had all this news I wanted to get to here. Great job. Great job, Mr. Gucciardi. StoryLeak.com. Folks, again, that is an extended hour-plus long InfoWars Nightly News tonight. I want to just run over a few of these headlines because I promised to do it and then shut down this transmission until the Sunday radio show comes back. But look at this right here. Cops, 15-year-old charged with kidnapping after impersonating deputy and attempting to strip search a woman coming in her house. Well, you just ought to wait a few years, become TSA. You can do it in front of everybody. Call it security. Again, American satisfaction with government sinks to all-time low. Oh, that's not nice. Why are you so successful? I mean, you're criticizing us. That's unpopular. IRS White House officials. Look at this woman. Looks like a Monty Python man in drag. White House officials that shared confidential taxpayer info hundreds of times, hundreds of visits with the White House. I mean, this is just beyond anything Nixon can imagine. Here's another one. Establishment GOPers assail Tea Party because it's the real opposition. Pointing things out, that's AP. Zuckerberg that calls his users, he goes, hey, they trust me. They're dumb effers. Imagine like these idiots trust me. Now let me do a pump and dump on them. Let me steal the system I used to do this anyways. Let me go to Bilderberg group meetings. Let me give the technology to Al-Qaeda to overthrow all these countries. So there's that. Mark Zuckerberg buys 4 houses near his Palo Alto home because he wants privacy, the article goes on to say. But you don't get yours. Just like Eddie Vedder gets bodyguards, but you can't have a gun to protect yourself. Just like he gets private jets. Ben Affleck says, how dare you not want to be grew up with the TSA? Turns out he only flies private jets. Same deal. See, these people are just totally disconnected from reality. Here it is. EU may declare abortion a human right. And here it is. California Brown signs bill permitting non-physician abortions. They should go to McDonald's to get them now. So there you go. But there's Eddie Vedder's quote. There's Eddie Vedder's quote. He says that the time has come. Eddie Vedder, lead singer of Pearl Jam, has come out against gun owners and almost wishes bad things to happen to them. Isn't that just sweet? Good old government demo side. White House takes down White House visitor logs, blames Republicans. Yes, because you don't want to know about all the IRS powwows you're having 24/7. And then, of course, the head general over the nukes saying they're now a political weapon. And, of course, the lapdog media doesn't want to know where the weapons have gone. So that's it for this extended InfoWars Nightly News. Lord willing, we will be back Sunday with the syndicated radio show. You can see the free video feeds at Infowars.com/show, or subscribe to PrisonPlanet.tv and see it all and support the very front lines of real journalism and folks that are crazy enough to actually not want to be slaves and grovel to people, and they actually want you to be able to have guns to protect yourself. Amazing. That's it for this transmission. Alex Jones here to warn you about some of the most important health information you may ever hear. I'm talking about radiation, radioactive fallout, radioactive particles contaminating the Northern Hemisphere. Conservatively, since the 1940s, the Northern Hemisphere of our planet has more than doubled its background radiation. In fact, that was before Fukushima exploded. Now the levels are going up and up and up. Fish are contaminated in the Pacific, and the FDA, the EPA, and others, they're not worried about it. They've been raising the levels of what they claim is safe radioactive particles. Well, I began to discuss with my wife protecting myself, her, and of course our children. Most importantly, I have 3 small children, ages 10, 9, and 5. Radiation really affects children more than adults because they have fast-growing cells. All the literature is clear on that. And I went and talked to medical doctors, scientists, nuclear physicists, nutritionists, and I said, what's the #1 thing I can do to protect my family? And they said, Alex, it's leave the Northern Hemisphere. Go south of the equator. That's where the radiation levels are very, very low. If you look at the wind patterns, the north hardly interacts with the south. And it's unfortunate that we've done this to our planet. So after more than 2 years of research into how to protect my family, looking at all the literature, talking to the experts, across the board they agreed iodine is key, but of the family of iodine, nascent, natural, non-GMO, non-factory iodine that comes from the earth is absolutely paramount for your thyroid and other functions in the body. The literature, the research, it's there. It's not my opinion. It is admitted that iodine is essential for the health of our bodies overall, and nascent iodine is the best form. Now, we're announcing the launch of InfoWarsLife.com, and we're going to bring you scores of products over the next few years that we're researching and developing. But nascent iodine is the first product we're coming out with because it's so important, and it's also listed as a fluoride detoxer. It does so many other things. Your body needs it, and when you don't have enough iodine, forget the radiation, your thyroid absorbs the sodium fluoride and other things. And it's the good iodine, the nascent iodine, that is able to block that and just do so many things for your body and your health. I've been taking it. It's amazing. It's a lot better than coffee, I'm here to tell you. And that's why we are now offering our own nascent iodine that's double the strength, made in the best laboratory that is FDA certified and accredited. And it is double strength at half the price of the leading competitor. You know my rule, bring you the highest quality products at the lowest prices we can, so it's a win-win-win. I believe in you reap what you sow. So not only will you get the best deal on nascent iodine at InfoWarsLife.com for your general health and also for any type of emergencies or disasters, you will also be getting a great deal and supporting the InfoWar and our news operation, promoting the cure for tyranny, the First Amendment promoting liberty and a rediscovery of the Bill of Rights and Constitution and true Americana that's made this nation so great. So please join me in being among the first to visit InfoWarsLife.com. We've got discounts if you buy the nascent iodine in bulk. I challenge you to try to find a better deal. We have the best deal out there and the best quality. In closing, here is probably the most important point. You don't just take nascent iodine when disaster strikes, when there's some new giant disaster. The Northern Hemisphere is already double what it was 60 years ago with the radioactive background. I believe from the research I've done and the experts I've talked to, it is key to take nascent iodine to protect your thyroid from the radiological disaster that's already happened. And unfortunately, future disasters that will happen. That's why it's important to fill your thyroid up now with the healthy nascent iodine so that the sodium fluoride, the radioactive isotopes, and the rest of it can't get in. That's the key. This is something that across the board has been shown in study after study to be an absolutely essential nutrient in the body. Until a few decades ago, the government put it in the salt because they knew you needed it. But then they took that out, that's good for the thyroid, and put the sodium fluoride in that's bad for it. Talk about eugenics, talk about soft kill, talk about an invisible weapon in the water supply. This stuff is on record as a detoxifier for the fluoride they're adding to our water. Nascent iodine and InfoWars Life Survival Shield in double strength at half the cost of the leading competitors. Please visit InfoWarsLife.com today.